Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to theCUBE's live coverage of the Snowflake Summit here in San Francisco. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight, alongside Dave Vellante, the co-founder of theCUBE. I would like to welcome our next guest to the show, Dayne Turbitt, Senior Vice President of EMEA at Snowflake. Welcome.
Thank you, it's great to be here.
And Emmanuel Frenehard, Chief Digital Officer at Sanofi. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I want to start with you, Emmanuel, because Sanofi has been very vocal about its AI-first strategy. Beyond the slogan, what does that actually mean in practice in terms of how you operate as an organization?
Sure, I thought maybe a bit of context, because it's important. In our industry, a drug discovery is a cycle of 10 to 12 years. If you're a patient in waiting, it's a lifetime. And so when we look at that, we say, what could we do to reduce that time and make medicine more accessible? So when you ask the question, what does it mean? Every step of the process, wherever we can deploy AI to gain time for the benefit of patients, we'll do so. From the way we discover drugs, to the way we take them to clinical trials, to the way we manufacture them, to the way we commercialize them. All of that cycle, we want to improve it, and we want to make it time efficient.
So it's all about speed, and from when you hear Emmanuel describe that, what that means at Sanofi, how does that match the patterns of what you're seeing across EMEA and other countries and organizations that you're working with?
I think very similar. What I love about working with Sanofi is the personal mission around patient care. So it really identifies the gaps in a process that AI can automate. But if I look across industry, everyone is looking for that. And there's a big shift today from AI experimentation to how does it truly transform the nature of work? And that's what we're seeing everywhere. And what Emmanuel is driving is truly on the cutting edge of that transformation. How do I reimagine my business processes, leveraging AI to make them go faster and be more efficient?
And save lives.
And in this case, save lives for sure.
Yes.
I want to ask you about how you're seeing this play out in the real world, because Emmanuel, on stage last night, you talked about, you started with fixing fragmented data, and you kind of said, you know, that's like the trivial part, not trivial, but that's necessary, table stakes, if you will. And then you talked about the early value came from working with the forward deployed Snowflake team, and then moving from untapped data to department level AI workflows. So there's a big debate going on, I say debate, but a caution, that we're going to automate islands of intelligence. And so, how do you avoid that? And how do you see in the real world that playing out? Because what we're seeing is, you had this top-down mandate, you know, Michael Dell, thou shalt be AI native.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it said, okay, well, let's start playing with OpenClaw and Nemo claws and everything else. So now you have this personal productivity boom. How do you make sure, as a data leader, an executive, that you don't just create all these other stovepipes?
I love the debate. I think it's a great debate. First principle, all our data shall be on Snowflake and shall be what we call it AI-ready data, which means it's governed, which means of quality we can trust. So it's one environment. If you think about it, we centralized it. And then the second view that we have is companies are all different, even in our industry. AstraZeneca, Novartis, and Sanofi have similar goals, but we don't run the same way. So we want to be able to run workflows that are uniquely designed for our company, straight on the data. No need to have intermediary systems, so the data is the gravitas, the workflow is what runs on top of the data. And so with Snowflake, and the ability that Snowflake is an operating system, it's not just a data platform, it truly is an operating system. So we run workflows straight on with Elementum and Snowflake, we run intelligence. So we're not fragmenting the intelligence because the data is unified underneath.
So let me add to that. I agree with what Emmanuel has said. What's interesting about this time is we've gone through this period of tech rationalization, where you've moved data from legacy systems to modern systems. What's different about now is there's a new reason to do that. And the reason to do that is in the way you want to change work and workflows. However, there's still a fundamental piece. You have to get your data in a governed way. It has to be under management, it has to be under governance, and has to be trusted. Because if it's not trusted, you don't trust the outcome and the results. So what I'm seeing in the market is a renewed surge of connectivity through open systems or ingestion of data into Snowflake as an operating system. Then I'm seeing clients that have been doing this. You talked about a trivial exercise, it's certainly not trivial.
Hey.
However, it's been done at Sanofi, it's been done at other companies like AstraZeneca. Now the question is, how do I exploit that data in a way that I can reimagine my process? Enter in the agentic enterprise where you now start to treat agents as co-workers. You can start to reimagine what the workflow is. So if your data is governed and trusted, you can then unleash these agents to go and automate workflow tasks, and once you do that, you shorten the amount of time work gets done. So that's what I'm seeing, and different organizations are at different levels of maturity. Some still have highly fragmented data and are in the process of getting it consolidated. Others have a consolidated data system like Snowflake and are now in a position to exploit that with all the AI that's out there.
And to the extent that you can demonstrate that to the business, you're going to have a flywheel effect on Snowflake. I mean, you're not going to stop shadow AI in companies, but to the extent that you can show that the activity on Snowflake is going to drive business value faster, that's like gravity will create
it's
more
a magnet.
usage.
It's a real magnet for innovation.
Well, and what's great is, I mean, you've seen the shift of AI. Every executive is interested in doing AI.
Yeah.
Then you have a chief digital officer that has to do the AI, and it's two different statements. But the reason that you're doing it is that there are true business outcomes that are now possible. You're seeing the business outcomes that you're achieving. We're seeing many examples where they're putting AI to work on the crown jewels of an organization, largely the structured data, and actually getting real business benefit out of it. That starts to then fuel more investment and more reimagining of what's possible.
Emmanuel, I want to go back to what you said at the very beginning of this conversation, which is that drug development takes 10, 12 years. For a patient, that's a lifetime. Can you talk a little bit about what AI-driven drug development looks like in this new era, in terms of is it understanding the failures quicker and therefore abandoning them? Is it working on some symptoms, not others? How is this actually changing things for those patients?
It's a great question. A cycle of drug development is very lengthy because you have the hypothesis phase of research, and then you've got a lot of experimentation. Once you pass the experimentation, which has cycles, you end up with human trials, and those can be many years. What if we could simulate all of that before we even run it? The sad story of our industry is that 90% of drugs still fail at phase 3 of a clinical trial. That means at the end, you're almost on the finish line. Patients are waiting and you fail. I believe, that we'll be able to see, and we're starting to simulate even clinical trials before they happen. So we still have to do them, but we do them with more precision. We do them with a better appreciation of the kind of patients we need in those trials. So my hypothesis is that you'll simulate molecule making, you'll design them, you'll simulate a molecule's impact on the target. Could be a cell, could be a gene, all of that will be, you'll simulate it in mice models, virtual twins, organs. You'll get to humans. Human biology remains a major mystery for all of us. But we're going to get to a place where we'll simulate. And my intention is to have the time it takes. So from 10 to 12 to 5 to 6.
Oh, wow.
When we went from on-prem software to SaaS, the operating model changed, the technology model went to cloud, the business model, the pricing changed to consumption. Companies like Snowflake were obviously born and affected. But it was really the IT department that was impacted. Now, as we go from SaaS to AI software, everything's changing again. So, not talking, forget the technology model for a minute, we're all sort of moving in that direction. I'm interested in how, and we're just trying to figure out the pricing model, we're talking about outcome-based pricing, but how do you see the operating model at your company change? Because it's not just going to affect the IT department, it's going to affect every organization, every department, across the board. How are you thinking about that?
That's probably the hardest. That's the hardest thing we have to solve right now. I think we've entered an era where we can custom design processes for any company, any function in the company. And you see it, agents are here to do things. But to do that, I think human nature is to optimize what we know. We're very good at shaving time, reducing friction, eliminating steps. If I give you a blank sheet of paper and saying, design to me a procurement function of the future, you're going to have a blank. Yeah. But if I tell you design it with the hypothesis that you have agents, that hybrid workforce can help you, we are entering, I think, a true area of reinvention of processes, where you cannot, it's not just the IT department, it's designed together. The IT department will code the agents and will maybe own the agents, but the logic has to come from within the company. That's probably where we need still a wave of, I guess, acculturation and upskilling within our, at least even our organization.
Any thoughts on that, Dayne?
Yeah, I think what you'll find, there's this concept of expert generalists.
Yeah.
So you used to have the experts that were deep in database, or they were deep in some coding level. With the invention of tools like Coco or Cortex Code, you have an agent that can code for you. Okay, I'm sure you've heard of vibe coding, but we'll talk about that. So now you have people that are expert generalists that are able to interact more intelligently with the IT department because there isn't this technological barrier anymore. And to Emmanuel's point, it's the reimagining of the business process that's important. And you need both the technological knowledge and the business knowledge. And I'm finding more joint teams being formed. Much closer integration between a business user owner and an IT professional so that they can go and reinvent what we want the agent to do. We see that internally where we use a product called Raven. And we're having a challenge now on how do we reimagine forecasting? How do we reimagine how we deal with our clients, not on the basis of our current paradigm, on the basis of, well, what if we had agents that could do research, that could draft emails, that could analyze Sanofi's current use case, and then suggest the next best use case based on the other 60 pharma companies that were there. All of that work makes my sales force way more productive. That took a lot of collaboration between the sales organization and the IT department just to document what they do on a daily basis and how to automate it.
So if I may, pre-Raven was probably good at what happened.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit why it happened, but not great on really deeply why it happened, what's going to likely happen next, what's the next best thing that I should do, and that's what Raven presumably is designed to do.
Well, and that's where we're going from a sales perspective, is if you think about the amount of time as a sales professional you spent researching a particular problem or a particular client, it's all productivity. Now I have a technology or an agent that can do that research for me and present me a hypothesis, much like you did today, or yesterday on stage. But that then suggests next best action, based on what we've seen from our 12,000 clients, which I don't have access to, but the system does. Then all I have to do is go and take that to the client and work on that client's particular business problem. But I arrive more educated, more informed, and it's a far more intelligent interaction with our clients than when I just show up with some random product that I'm trying to shift. So hopefully it's a better experience for you. So
I'm thinking about the cultural shift inside of organizations based on what you were saying in terms of the technologists working more closely with the commercial team, and at a place like Sanofi, it's also the clinicians and the scientists. What has been the hardest parts about getting teams to work in new and different ways, and what maybe has surprised you, Emmanuel?
We had a few strong messages, and not everybody agrees with them, but AI is not for automation was one of our messages. Try to do things that don't digitize the past and try to AI-fy the past by saying, oh, with an agent I'll do it faster. No, truly rethink what the future could be. That was a strong message, which in the beginning I think was not fully understood, but when you start opening the land of opportunities that this provides you, it changed the dynamic. And so I would say Sanofi is a place where we have tremendous excitement for it. Every year we run, for a month, we run what we call digital months. We do workshops, hands-on workshops. Snowflake came and presented at it. We have 75,000 employees at Sanofi. Think about people in manufacturing, and 44,000 employees attended those workshops. So I've never seen that. So when you ask how is the culture is of innovation, of willingness, of daring, of risk-taking, all of these things. and willingness to learn. And so all the ingredients are here.
I call that paving the cow path. Don't just AIify an existing process. I mean, it pains me because we love our friends at UiPath, but RPA was that's what it did.
Yep.
And so, I presume you're familiar with Cortex Sense. That starts to get into the process level capabilities. We're not, it's early days. But as I've been saying, 3 or 4 years ago, Snowflake wasn't even, in that conversation. Yep. And now you're right in the mix of that sort of interesting competitive dynamic. You got the LLMs over here. You've got the SaaS companies. I saw a sign today, Salesforce. So they've got great affinity with Salesforce, but they would love to be that system of intelligence, of course, Snowflake as well. So you've got a really interesting cage match, I think you called it, going on here.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting time in the market.
Yeah.
The LLMs have had amazing success. You saw the Anthropic success story on stage, and whether it's OpenAI and whoever's next. I loved in the keynote with Sridhar that they spoke about, that was 5 years ago. Okay, it felt like the dark ages. Things are moving so quickly, and we'll see how things play out. I think going back to Sridhar's point, we're very focused on delivering successful outcomes to our clients and doing what we do best, which is providing a governed, trusted data platform. And once you have that in place, AI just accelerates that.
And keep innovating on product. I said this before.
Yeah.
Sridhar said product market fit is a life force. So keep innovating. And that's true for any business that
any industry, products. Any company.
Right, right. And so that was an homage, by the way, to Frank Slootman. So
if you saw Christian's keynote today, he called it an avalanche of innovation.
Right?
Yes.
And that's certainly how the last 12 months have felt. So may it continue. Which is great. I think it's super exciting.
Exciting times. Dayne and Emmanuel, thank you both so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Really interesting conversation.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I'm Rebecca Knight for Vellante. Stay tuned for more of theCUBE's live coverage of the Snowflake Summit after a quick break. You're watching theCUBE, the leader in enterprise tech news and analysis.